During science today, I'm going to make a picture and add to it as I go, and I'm going to ask for your suggestions. So it's similar to something that we've done in class where I'm in front of you drawing the picture and you're telling me things to add. It's called a draw and label. So I want you to pretend that we're together and that I can hear all of your ideas. So far, all you see is what? It's a good practice. Tell me, what do you see? 2 green lines, right. Before I label this, I'm going to add a little bit more, and this will give you a hint, a big hint, as to what we're going to be talking about today. Let's see if you can guess. So this is green grass, and this is dirt. Does anyone remember the word for dirt? That's kind of like a fancy scientific word, starts with S. Soil. And what did I draw in the soil here coming out? It's a worm. Right, we're going to be learning more about worms today. And worms have a longer name called earthworms. Why do you think they're called earthworms? I bet you guessed it. They're called earthworms because they spend a lot of their time in the soil in the earth. So you can see that this worm is crawling up towards the grass and is just coming out a little bit. So let's think about a worm. Remember when I showed you that video and I held a worm in my hand? Was it staying still? No, it was wiggling all around. So I want you to think about, what does a worm look like? What does a worm feel like? I want us to describe a worm. So tell me, what can you tell me about what a worm looks like or feels like? Good. I heard a lot of good ideas. So here I wrote the word description. Say that with me. Description. We're going to describe the worm. I heard some people say slimy. Worms are slimy. They almost feel a little wet. Worms are long. Say that with me. Worms are long. Are worms wide or skinny? Right, skinny. So say worms are skinny. Good. What else do we know about worms? See those little lines on the worm's body? That's called segmented. Say worms are segmented. Good. That's a good scientific word for you to use. So some ways that we would describe an earthworm: worms are slimy, worms are long, worms are skinny, worms are segmented. They have those lines on their body. Okay, so the next thing I want us to think about, you have to go back and think about living and non-living things. Is a worm living or non-living? Living means alive, non-living means dead or not alive, wasn't ever alive. Yeah, a worm is living. So in purple, we're not going to talk about describing a worm. We're going to talk about, what does a worm need for survival? So these are some things that all living things need to survive. Things that all living things need to continue living. What do you think some things would be? What does a worm need to survive? Water. Yep, I'll write that down. A worm needs water. A worm needs food. What else does a worm need? A worm needs air. Can you say that with me? A worm needs air. A worm needs space. If you don't give the worm any area, like a little tiny area, it won't survive. It needs to be able to move and crawl around. So in purple, we have the worm's needs for survival. Water, repeat after me, water, food, air, space. Good. So now down here, I'm going to write a long word in green that starts with E. I'll say it like a robot and see if you can put it together. Environment. 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 Where does an earthworm live? What do you think? Where does an earthworm live? Good. I hear some of you saying the soil, which is a fancy word for dirt. Earthworms' environment can be the soil or dirt, the ground, or the earth. Good. So what's the earthworm doing right here in this area? It's making a tunnel. Right, so when it makes that tunnel, it makes like little air pockets in the earth. And that has an impact on the environment that it lives in. It has a positive impact. That means it helps the earth. So let's think about that. How would these tunnels in the soil help the earth? That is tricky. How would that help the earth? I'm writing positive impact. So what happens is when the earthworms make these tunnels, it makes a space in the soil. So I'm going to draw a little picture here of a plant. I'm making a stem, and I'm making the leaves, and all of that is above ground. So here's the stem, and which part is this? Good, the leaves. But then there's a part of a plant that grows underground. Does anybody know what that part of a plant is? It's the roots, right? The roots grow underground. And the roots kind of have a tough job. They have to push through the dirt. But what do you think would happen if there was already a tunnel there from a worm? Then the roots don't have to push as hard, and the roots can just go right into the tunnel. So if you have worms in your garden, it's a really great thing. It will help your plants. So I'm going to write make tunnels for plants. And some of you might know this, but in the soil there's like vitamins and nutrients for plants and some animals like earthworms. So when the earthworm is tunneling down, it mixes all of those up and it makes the soil healthier. So mixes up soil to be healthier. So I wrote, earthworms have a positive impact. They make, what are these called? Tunnels for plants. And they mix up the soil to be healthier. They help the soil to mix up the vitamins and nutrients. So earthworms have a positive impact. We'll come back to that drawing another day, but I keep saying impact, impact, impact. Does anybody remember what the word impact means? We learned that yesterday. Impact means to make a change, right? So these earthworms are changing the soil. They're making an impact by making those tunnels. Okay, so that's one way I wanted to talk about impact today. But I also wanted to read you this book called The Great Trash Bash by Laureen Leedy. There's an impact in this book also. And we can read to find out if it's a positive impact, something that changes and makes things better, or a negative impact. There are rolling hills and wiggly roads and shady trees in Beeston. It is a home to any animal that can run, fly, or swim. But something is wrong. The mayor is searching for an answer. I can't figure out what's wrong in Beeston. We have lovely houses and parks. He talks to citizens wherever he goes. We have such fine restaurants and stores. What do you think is wrong with our town? I don't know. My new sweater looks good, and my dress, and I'm going to throw away all my old clothes. We fixed all the potholes in the roads. I see something wrong in this picture. A lot of you have been writing about it. Why do I get the feeling that something isn't quite right? Warning, no swimming here. Polluted water. Polluted means dirty. Whoa! At last, Mayor Hippo finds the answer. Now I know Beeston has too much trash. To find out more about trash, the mayor goes to the dump. This dump is a smelly, ugly mess. It's easy and cheap just to throw stuff here. Next, he visits the incinerator. The incinerator burns trash and makes energy. It makes air pollution too. The landfill is the last stop. It seems awful to spread trash over the land. What will happen when this landfill is full? We'll cover the trash with dirt and plant trees to make a park. But where will we put our trash then? I don't know. We have to do something fast. Mayor Hippo calls a town meeting. What can we do to solve Beeston's trash problem? Dump the trash in the next town. They don't want it either. Dump it in the ocean. That pollutes the water. Blast it to the moon? Let's have a trash bash and clean up this town. Let's do it. At the meeting, the animals think of ways to solve the trash problem. They start to make changes in their everyday life. Let's make less trash. Look at these fancy packages. Soon they'll just be fancy trash. We can buy in bulk instead. We'll scoop the food into plain paper bags. I only buy returnable bottles. And I use the same bags over again instead of throwing them out. No thanks. I don't need a bag. He's just got an apple. Citizens take out their tools. Let's fix the old instead of buying the new. They start to clean up Beeston. Let's stop littering. Those things are dangerous. They even find some good uses for trash. Let's recycle it. New metal from old cans, new glass from old jars, new paper from old newspapers. These food scraps will turn into soil in the compost bin. Soon, the town opens a recycling center. Welcome, grand opening. Where did you get the wood to build this? It's recycled. In the recycling center, the trash is sorted out. What happens to this stuff now? We sell it to companies that use it to make new products. Life is looking a lot better. Let's celebrate. These party supplies are made from recycled paper. Bash the trash. There are rolling hills and wiggly roads and shady trees in Beeston. It is a home to any animal that can run, fly, or swim. Beeston is a beautiful place. And I don't think I see any trash on the ground anymore. No more litter. The animals in this community changed their ways to have a positive impact on it. And that's the end. I'm sure we could do the same thing in our community so we could have a positive impact.